Each gaming platform has its advantages, but when it comes to PC, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more flexible environment for gamers. And when it comes to games for an intermediate PC, there's no shortage of fun. So with that said, come with me to this list of the best mid-spec PC games. Sony brings Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, an action game bundle that includes Uncharted 4, A Thief's End and Uncharted, The Lost Legacy, to PC with a wealth of features. The collection lacks a The Last of Us Part I-style visual facelift, but the included titles receive a healthy dose of PC-friendly optimization, including support for ultra-wide monitors, 4K resolution, AMD FS22, NVIDIA DLSS, and DualSense controllers. If you're a PC gamer who has longed to experience Uncharted's special brand of cinematic action, pick up this collection. Call of Duty, Warzone has entered the competitive battle royale fray, with a few tricks up its sleeve to shake up the formula. Based on Modern Warfare's 2019 reboot, Warzone introduces unique battle royale elements, such as loadout kits and respawn matches, that separate it from the competition and greatly impact how the game plays. These additions are hit or miss, but the overall package is highly polished and has enough meat to attract traditional FPS fans. Beside Fist of the North Star and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, there are few anime properties that are as intrinsically suited to the fighting game treatment as the Dragon Ball series. Spanning multiple series, movies, and generations of characters, Akira Toriyama's manga-turned-anime-turned-game series is all about buff monkey men, humans, aliens, and androids trading blows in actual earth-shattering battles. Dragon Ball FighterZ ditches the Xenoverse game's arena brawling model in favor of 3 vs 3 tag team fighting on a 2D plane. The gameplay shift is just one of the many reasons Dragon Ball FighterZ is being held aloft as one of 2018's notable titles. Its beautiful design, intense combat, and accessible control scheme add up to a game one that anyone can jump into for Super Saiyan thrills. League of Legends, Riot Games' free-to-play, multiplayer online battle arena title is, simply put, the best MOBA game you can buy. Its gameplay incorporates elements of role-playing, tower defense, and real-time strategy, a combination that differentiates it from the many cookie-cutter MOBAs flooding the market. More importantly, the playable characters, known as champions, show a deep level of variation, and each match's competition level increases as the game sinks you deeper and deeper into addiction. One of the best early games for the PS5, Ratchet, Clank, and Rivet made their way to PC this year. A blast from the past, Rift Apart isn't challenging, but it is enjoyable as Insomniac's eye for detail, well-written characters, and several blockbuster moments all helped create a memorable adventure. With mixes on porting duty, this new arrival in the PlayStation Studios PC catalog ran like a dream and looked better than ever. With Forza Horizon 5, Xbox Game Studios takes its popular racing series to a beautiful and varied Mexico setting. The fifth title in the Racing and Music Festival is fat with the modes, atmosphere, music, and wild stunts you'd expect, but this time the additions and changes are more evolutionary than revolutionary. This entry's hook is the new Event Lab tool that lets you craft custom races, stunts, challenges, and game modes, and share them with others. 500 licensed cars and Horizon Arcade, a mode that consists of several short, wacky, co-op and competitive multiplayer games, complete the well-rounded package. Sure, Sanctuary might be filled with demonic creatures, phantoms with a literal axe to grind, and subterranean horrors, but for some digital tourism, it was the place to be when Diablo 4 arrived earlier this year. The latest sequel in the Diablo series walks a fine line between reverence for the past and newfangled ideas to keep players engaged via live service elements, but that combo works surprisingly well. It's a dark tale that still provides moments of hope, and a seasonal structure that dynamically evolves the Diablo experience makes for a hell of a good time. Horizon Zero Dawn was one of 2017's hottest games. It stood as one of the best PlayStation 4 exclusives, right up there with Bloodborne, Spider-Man, and the God of War reimagining. Now, you can enjoy its open-world action on PC, thanks to the Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. This action RPG contains the base game, plus the Frozen Wilds DLC, an additional area featuring more story content and collectibles, and it easily holds up today as a huge, dense, worthwhile adventure. Monster Hunter Rise makes the jump from Nintendo Switch to PC, delivering excellent creature-killing action that tops 100 frames per second. Like its console counterpart, Rise on PC features new yokai-inspired monsters and large hunting zones packed with collectible goodies. Monster Hunter Rise lacks cross-save and cross-platform support, but it's one of the best multiplayer action RPGs to come along in some time. Call of Duty: Black Ops 2. Let's start with what will be the meat of the Black Ops 2 experience for many: multiplayer mode. Developer Treyarch has not toyed significantly with the formula, giving players numerous options for facing off against others across the country and around the globe. The missions include Team Deathmatch, Free-for-All, Search and Destroy, Capture the Flag, and 8 others. You can also engage in 2 types of combat training runs to hone your skills, or play 4 party games that put interesting for entertainment-only spins on the weapons you can use and the rules you play by. When the fate of the galaxy is in your hands, how often does it feel like it's really in your hands? It does in Mass Effect 3. Picking up where Mass Effect 2 left off, Mass Effect 3 thrusts you back into the persona of Commander Shepard, who's standing at the brink of one of the most daunting challenges ever. He's tasked with nothing less than rescuing the Earth and the entire Milky Way from the clutches of the all-consuming Reapers that are threatening them as never before. Packed with action, character development, and customizability that transcend what you find in most games, Mass Effect 3 is an entertaining and frequently engrossing trip into the psychology of helplessness, if one that doesn't realize all of its towering ambitions. Let's get this out of the way. Prey could easily pass as an unofficial System Shock game. On the surface, Prey looks very much like the brainchild of industry veterans Ken Levine or Warren Spector. While the opinions of the latest System Shock spiritual installments, BioShock 2, BioShock Infinite, are all over the place, Bethesda's take does the Shock family and first-person shooter genre justice with its fast-paced, body-morphing gameplay set in Art Deco-flavored environments. Resident Evil 4 Remake, much like the previous 2 remakes of fan-favorite Resident Evil titles, is built from the ground up using Capcom's proprietary RE engine. First used for Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, the RE engine is easily one of the most powerful video game engines out there. It is capable of producing borderline photorealistic visuals and lighting. Since Resident Evil 7, the RE engine has been used for all major Capcom titles, including every Resident Evil game following RE7, Devil May Cry 5, and Monster Hunter Rise. Apart from producing truly breathtaking visuals, it is also one of the most optimized and scalable game engines, making it a boon for mid-range PC users. Resident Evil 4 Remake essentially shares the same system requirements as Resident Evil Village, with GTX 1050 Ti being the minimum GPU required to run the game at 1080p. Resident Evil Village is already a great experience on mid-range PCs. Since RE4 Remake shares identical requirements, it can be speculated that it would also work flawlessly on most mid-range PC specifications. Hi-Fi Rush isn't just the best surprise of 2023, but also a heartfelt love letter to the power of music. Specifically, the power to use the unique beats of an awesome mixtape and clobber your way through tight-fisted robot werewolves, legions of drones, and corporate culture that has gone out of control. Like the best albums, Hi-Fi Rush stays with you long after the credits have rolled, as its combination of rhythm-based action, a cast of lovable misfits, and Saturday morning cartoon energy will make you demand an encore. Fresh and wide-eyed from her exploits in Japan, the young and ambitious explorer Lara Croft is pitted against a cult of fanatical zealots in pursuit of immortality. Rise of the Tomb Raider features more of the spectacular set pieces, powerful combat, and tricky puzzles that made the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot so well received by critics and fans alike. Series fans may get a distinct feeling of déjà vu when running through the similarly styled gameplay scenarios and platforming sections, but Rise of the Tomb Raider is a solid action-adventure title. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice is a From Software action game that carries some of the DNA of its Dark Souls and Bloodborne predecessors. Thankfully, From Software injects enough new freshness into its formula to create an entirely unique experience. The game introduces fantastic movement elements, clever stealth systems, and parry-heavy swordplay as the ninja protagonist, Sekiro, battles gods and monsters. The controls can be a bit sticky at times, and there are a few obnoxious hitbox issues, but these are relatively minor complaints. For the uninitiated, The Old Republic is an MMO that takes place thousands of years prior to the events of A New Hope. This gives the developer, BioWare, the freedom to craft an exciting new story, such as the recently released Knights of the Eternal Throne expansion that's set within the established Star Wars universe. This liberty, combined with BioWare's wonderfully dynamic dialogue system, thrilling combat, and extremely generous free-to-play model, has produced a truly epic MMO that shines as one of the genre's defining titles. Easy to learn, hard to master is a phrase commonly heard in gaming circles, but few titles exemplify the idea more than Defense of the Ancients 2, Dota 2. This free-to-play MOBA game tasks you with selecting one of 111 playable heroes to take to the battlefield, utilizing the character's unique abilities, playstyle, and attributes to help your team achieve victory. Dota 2 lacks Paragon's graphical flair, and it doesn't have Smite's many unique play modes, but it is the best and most balanced MOBA on PC. Dark Souls returns to the PC, and it's every bit as terrifying as you may have heard. Don't worry, Dark Souls 2 avoids the missteps of its predecessor's infamous port, allowing you to focus on the rich, gloomy action RPG world and fantastic, unforgiving gameplay. Dark Souls 2 is a relentless barrage of demonic enemies and enraging boss encounters that will test your reflexes and your patience. This is not a game for the faint of heart or quick of temper, so clear your desk of ceramics, take the framed pictures off the walls, and prepare to enter the dark world of Drangleic. Dark Souls 3 is developer From Software's return to the Souls series after the eldritch madness that was Bloodborne. In fact, the newest Souls game incorporates gameplay and design elements from virtually all of the team's recent titles. As a result, the gorgeous and action-packed Dark Souls 3 feels highly familiar, yet fresh and content-rich at the same time. Like all of From Software's launches, however, the game is in need of a few patches to adjust weapon balance. Nonetheless, Dark Souls 3 is easily one of the best games in the series. With 2016's Doom, developer ID Software successfully resurrected one of the foundational first-person shooter franchises. Given the game's critical and commercial success, it's no surprise to see a follow-up. Doom Eternal takes everything that made its predecessor a wonderful, demon-slaying shooter and bumps it all up by several notches courtesy of ridiculous weapons, fresh navigation options, and new multiplayer mode. It is almost too over the top at points, but that's precisely what makes Doom Eternal one of the best shooters ever made. In terms of pure gameplay, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain is the best game in the long-running stealth series. You once again play as Big Boss, aka Punished Venom Snake, who battles the nefarious XOF organization across 1980s Africa and Afghanistan. Boasting a wealth of combat options, impressive weaponry, and outstanding audio and video work, The Phantom Pain is an absolute joy to play. That said, the truncated story raises more questions than it answers, and may leave you feeling a phantom pain of your own. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a haunting, cinematic look at Lara Croft as she traverses the steppes and underworlds of the modern home of ancient Mesoamerican culture. Developers Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics redefine Croft in the final installment of her origin series by tossing away her iconic dual pistols and transforming her from a hapless orphan into a hardened tomb-dwelling adventuress who must stop the coming Mayan apocalypse. Shadow of the Tomb Raider wraps up Lara's early days in satisfying fashion, but narrative and performance issues prevent the action-adventure game from reaching the same heights as the previous installments in the series. PC gamers had several PlayStation ports to enjoy this year, starting with Returnal in February. Housemarque's Live Die Repeat game is a gem of high-pressure gameplay, deathly loops, and pure arcade bullet hell energy as you chase that perfect run, making it a uniquely challenging experience. On PC it looks better than ever, especially with a selection of ultra-wide resolutions and enhanced visual options that take full advantage of high-tech setups to power its chronal carnage. David Cage's Heavy Rain unravels the dark, fictional story of a serial murderer known as the Origami Killer. The interactive story succeeds in building a gritty aura fitting of the subject matter and in developing a set of believable characters within its world. However, the mechanics often feel tacked on and the game's presentation is underwhelming in some aspects, such as the voice acting and graphical fidelity. Despite those persistent flaws, Heavy Rain is worth the time and price, if only for its engrossing narrative. Tekken 7, like the mainline Tekken games that came before it, is a tale of fathers and sons attempting to murder each other to purge the Mishima clan from the Devil Gene, a magical DNA bit that transforms certain people into Hell Spawn. Touted as the conclusion of the Mishima drama, Tekken 7 reveals secrets and leaves cliffhangers, thus simultaneously answering long-standing questions and prompting the fan base to ask new ones. Thankfully, the wonderfully ridiculous tale is bolstered by some of the best mechanics featured in contemporary fighting games, with the new Power Crush, Rage Arts, and Rage Drive attacks deftly blending into the established mix. World of Warcraft isn't dead, but this expansion spends a lot of time focused on the concept. Shadowlands is the 8th major update for Blizzard Entertainment's long-running PC game. Since 2004, we've seen the world shattered, fought back the Burning Legion, traveled to alternate realities, and even fought the very soul of a far-off planet. Now it's time to conquer death itself. And the mission is highly entertaining. Minecraft is a blocky, beautiful sandbox that lets you explore the depths of your imagination. The core of the game is exploring and surviving in a hostile world made from blocks that you can build with as you please. But as you play, you'll quickly see that this game has so much more to offer than just architecture. What Minecraft presents is plenty of space for players to enjoy their own kind of play. The detail-oriented will thrill at the possibilities of an enormous sandbox, but even a dabbler will find pleasure facing off against an unfriendly wilderness. If you've never experienced it, start exploring and see if you can resist the call of its endless potential. When Tekken's Dead Island trailer debuted, it featured one of the most moving video game sequences ever produced, a small child and her family being slaughtered by zombies against the backdrop of a soft, haunting Giles Lamb musical score. Dead Island's gameplay doesn't quite match the trailer's promise, but the open-world action RPG offers a very solid zombie-slaying good time as you craft weapons and try to stay alive in an island paradise gone wrong. Valve's Counter-Strike Global Offensive, CS GO, debuted in 2012, backed by a strong heritage of multiplayer FPS titles, including the original Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Source. 6 years later, the fast-paced PC game still mostly holds its own against more modern titles, partly because of its established core gameplay and active community. Visually, however, CS GO is starting to show its age, and it's not as thematically rich as popular titles like Overwatch. Still, many players will enjoy CS GO's no-frills experience and highly competitive esports scene. Nier: Automata is an action RPG developed by Platinum Games, the studio behind the Bayonetta games, and directed by Yoko Taro, the creator of the Drakengard series and the original Nier. Platinum Games' previous works excel on the gameplay front, but their stories are generally campy schlock. Taro's games, on the other hand, are brilliantly depressing stories tied together with weak gameplay. Nier: Automata is a marriage of Platinum Games' intense action combat and Taro's wacky, yet somber storytelling, and is easily one of the better games released in 2017, thanks to the hot Android on robot combat. Unfortunately, Nier: Automata suffers from some technical issues. A lack of developer support compounds this, so you'll need to rely on fan-made patches if you want to get the very best performance out of the game. Nioh 2 is a fantastic sequel that takes challenging combat, stat-allocating RPG elements, and gear-based character builds, and frames it within a Sengoku-era story that marries real historical figures and Japanese mythology. The original game's thrilling, technical action returns, but adds 4 new weapon types, yokai abilities that let you summon supernatural attacks, and an incredibly useful counterattack mechanic. If you like hardcore action and tweaking character builds, Nioh 2 is a RPG to pick up without hesitation. Fortnite is yet another game capitalizing on the popularity of the Battle Royale genre, but that doesn't mean that the title is without merit. Fortnite has a lot going for it, including approachable gameplay modes, bright and zany graphics, and an excellent construction system. Iffy combat and the presence of microtransactions detract from the experience, but as Fortnite is a free-to-play game, fans of PUBG and other titles in the genre should still give it a shot. Bethesda's Elder Scrolls series has consistently been on the front lines of RPG immersion, giving you ever bigger and more elaborate realms to explore. The quantum strides made in Morrowind, 2002, and Oblivion, 2006, continue in Skyrim, which provides the most delicious perspective to date on this fascinating world over which you have almost complete control. It's no challenge to set yourself up as a warrior, a wizard, or a pickpocketing miscreant, of either gender, of any of 10 species, and with just the physical and facial characteristics you desire. Far Cry 4 is a fun sandbox of shooting with an interesting land to explore and tons of missions to find and collectibles to grab. It slavishly follows Far Cry 3's structure, but when the action is this entertaining, hard to complain. Far Cry 4 doesn't do much new, but it's an enjoyable and good-looking excuse to spend some hours stomping through jungles and sniping people from towers. The controversial and much-hyped No Man's Sky is a game that offers two opposing experiences. One is a beautiful and wholly fresh journey through space to chart undiscovered worlds. The other weighs down that joy with mundane and repetitive resource gathering and fighting. That said, No Man's Sky is so much more than a sterile description of its parts and features. It's an astounding artistic and technical achievement that's worth playing. Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed series has been pushing the envelope of open-world game design since its inception in 2007. With densely packed open worlds filled with hundreds of NPCs and highly detailed environments, the games deliver a truly lived-in open-world experience. Despite the graphical fidelity of the franchise, the optimization and scalability of Ubisoft's proprietary Anvil engine allow the games to run on a wide range of PC specifications. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the most recent entry in the series, is a perfect example of a great open-world experience for mid-range PC users. Assassin's Creed Mirage, the upcoming new entry in the open-world action-adventure franchise, will likely be an equally great experience for mid-spec PC users. This is especially true because the game was initially meant to be an expansion of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Assassin's Creed Mirage is also a cross-generation title and will use the same engine as Assassin's Creed Valhalla, making it ideal for mid-range PC users. Mortal Kombat 11 is far more than the guts and gore titles on which the series built its fame. The fighting game continues the series' tradition of kung fu theater-style action and otherworldly mysticism to lay the foundation for military operatives, ninjas, gods, and monsters to punch each other squarely in the face. With its character customization, HDR10 support, smooth animations, and new offensive and defensive meters, 11 Malawian Kwachas is the best Mortal Kombat game to date. Halo Infinite isn't a revolutionary first-person shooter, but the gameplay changes it implements makes the newest 343 Industries-developed title a good old time. Featuring a new, open-world design, cool grappling, and a compelling narrative, Halo Infinite takes what makes Halo a great series and pushes those elements into the next generation. The free, multiplayer component is terrific, but the poor Battle Pass implementation sullies the experience a bit. Immortals Fenyx Rising is the best game that publisher Ubisoft released in 2020, despite being shoved into the holiday season behind its bigger siblings, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs: Legion. Developer Ubisoft Quebec pivoted from Assassin's Creed's massive quest to a shorter action-adventure game, a move that helps this story of Greek gods and monsters shine brighter. Immortals Fenyx Rising is a PC game forged from the pieces of other titles, notably Assassin's Creed Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, but it excellently establishes its own identity. Lost Ark hacks and slashes its way into the Western market after successfully entertaining action RPG fans in international regions over the past 2 years. Smilegate's free-to-play RPG title features thrilling action and, in a nice twist, more than a dozen classes that don't stick to the traditional MMO archetypes. Lost Ark needs better controller support, but the demon-slaying action RPG is a joy to play solo or with a crew. Although Gears 5 is the first main game in the long-running series to nix the of war suffix, make no mistake, the Gears world is still at war. The third-person shooter is the sixth entry in the franchise and a direct sequel to Gears of War 4, continuing the story of the Coalition of Ordered Governments, COG, fight against the Swarm. Gears 5's captivating storytelling, solid mechanics, and excellent graphics far outweigh this PC game's merely average multiplayer modes. It's an easy recommendation for longtime players of the Gears of War series and newcomers alike. Like many other games in the open-world survival or first-person shooter genres, the primary goal of PUBG is to be the last player alive. However, PUBG doesn't adhere to the genre norms. It takes some of the best aspects of open-world games, combines it with the mechanics of a good first-person shooter, and accommodates a player base typical of MMOs. There's also a good balance of gameplay elements. For example, you get to choose where to parachute down on the map, everyone starts without a weapon, and there's a deadly and giant shimmering blue dome that reduces the playable area every so often. It's tense and fun, but bugs dull the experience a bit. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered is yet another PlayStation 4 blockbuster now swinging to the PC. Sony's open-world game receives a superheroic port thanks to new graphical options and all the previous DLC. If you've never crawled your way through this virtual Manhattan, webbing out bad guys along the way, now's your chance. Resident Evil 2 is back. Sure, the classic PlayStation game has received numerous ports and re-releases over the years, but this new version, simply titled Resident Evil 2, rebuilds the survivor horror game from the ground up. You once again play as Leon Kennedy, a rookie cop, and Claire Redfield, a woman searching for her brother after the events of the first Resident Evil. Though this remake treads familiar zombie shooting ground, it tosses in new enemies and puzzles to freshen things up. Persona 5 was a role-playing game masterpiece from Atlus, a publisher renowned for its exceptional RPGs. On consoles, the game received a significant upgrade, Persona 5 Royal, that smoothed the original game's rough edges and bulked up the 80-hour adventure with fresh characters, story elements, and music. On PC, Atlus gives Persona 5 Royal even more goodies, including a new challenge mode and additional personas. In short, Persona 5 Royal is a near-perfect PC game that lets you tackle the challenges of school life and the many psychological secrets that haunt Japan's citizens. Warframe is an addictive online game that combines melee action, snappy shooting, and outstanding character mobility with mission-based progression, exciting multiplayer battles, and excellent sci-fi visuals. The game isn't new, Warframe has been around for years. As a result, newcomers will find Warframe a content-rich experience, despite its grind-heavy, free-to-play nature. If there's a major Warframe gripe, it's the late-game content that incorporates MMO-style activities like fishing, animal trapping, and mining, a complete departure from the game's action-focused core. Still, Warframe is packed with thrilling moments. SNK took KOF XIV's core, revamped the max meter, added new features, and gave it an eye-catching skin to create one of the best fighting games in recent history. KOF 15 features a revamped fighting engine that facilitates creative combat and near-flawless rollback netcode that will keep you knuckling up with online rivals for hours on end. Despite suffering a ho-hum training mode and the occasional screen tearing, this fighting game ranks among the series' best entries. Konami's Metal Gear Solid series is known for its stealth-based gameplay, but its spin-off, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, is a straight hack-and-slash action game starring stooge-turned-badass, Raiden. Developer Platinum Games bundles the game with numerous goodies not associated with the original console version, including graphical enhancements and 3 DLC packages that were separate console purchases, all at a reasonable price. In short, if you like the console version of Revengeance, you'll dig this one, too, despite the occasional rough camera angle and frame rate drop. The Slocklap-developed Sifu wears its inspirations on its sleeves, taking elements from Old Boy, John Wick, and Jackie Chan flicks to create a cinematic beat-em-up that's just as fun to watch as it is to play. The deep combat system lets you parry, unleash super moves, and utilize weapons and environments as you seek revenge on villains who did your family wrong. The unique death system causes your character to age, exchanging youth and vitality for age and raw strength. There are few video games that drop all dark and portentous pretenses and give you a straightforward, honest-to-goodness game. Rocket League is one such title. It blends the charm of RC racing with the heated competition of soccer and adds plenty of over-the-top spectacle to keep every match interesting. Rocket League is just as fun during your first hour as it is during your 20th. There are very few multiplayer games that utilize addictive simplicity as effectively. It even supports cross-platform play with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One gamers. Much like Assassin's Creed Mirage, Hogwarts Legacy is a cross-generation title. It will come out on both current generation and previous generation PlayStation and Xbox consoles. While the system requirements for the game are nothing to scoff at, they aren't particularly high. Anyone with a modern mid-range PC should easily get playable frame rates at 1080p. Built on Epic Games' Unreal Engine 4 and featuring modern bells and whistles like ray tracing, Hogwarts Legacy is easily one of the best-looking games of 2023. This is despite the fact that it has mid-range system specifications as its minimum requirements. Hogwarts Legacy's Steam page lists 8th generation Core i5, GTX 1070, and 8GB of RAM as the minimum requirements, which target 1080p at 60 frames per second with low settings. Going by the system requirements, players with a modern mid-range system will be able to experience the game smoothly as long as the graphics settings are kept low. In 1997, Square Enix, then known simply as Square, forever changed role-playing games with the release of the cinematic, heartfelt, and action-packed Final Fantasy VII. Those traits live on in Final Fantasy VII Remake in Tergrade. This dazzling FFVII reimagining only focuses on the Midgar area, but Square Enix greatly expands this opening section by enhancing existing concepts and introducing new ones. A user-selectable fight system lets you switch between Final Fantasy XV-style, real-time combat or the classic, action-time battle mechanics. Even better, this Intergrade version includes the previously released base game, as well as its DLC. The downside? The occasional stuttering and low-poly textures. Overwatch 2 has gone free to play, and it changes everything. Sort of. Blizzard's hero shooter retains its excellent, team-based, moment-to-moment gameplay, and adds notable balance changes that make each character more exciting and versatile. However, Overwatch 2 doesn't deliver much else that sets it apart from the now-defunct original title, and the mobile-style monetization is highly annoying. Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition takes everything that made Capcom's original 2008 release an impressive action game and expands on it. The game includes the legendary Dark Knight enemy horde mode that was added to the original PC port, as well as 3 new playable characters, improved visuals, and subtle gameplay tweaks. Some of the weaker aspects of the original release, such as the repetitive story campaign, remain and slightly tarnish an otherwise brilliantly polished title. Overall, Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition is a rock-solid action game that is well worth picking up for fans of the series and action buffs alike. Devil May Cry is a genre-defining action series that pits your demon-slaying protagonist against the hordes of hell, giving you a sword, guns, and a robust list of special attacks to string together in crazy and over-the-top combos. Devil May Cry 5 is the newest incarnation of the series. It takes elements from previous games, even including the fan-derided DMC, Devil May Cry reboot, and introduces all new characters and gameplay systems for fans and newcomers to enjoy. All systems have been rebalanced and streamlined, making them easy to grasp, yet challenging to apply in practice and to master. It's one of the best action games ever made. With Far Cry Primal, developer Ubisoft abandons all political pretenses and focuses on what made Far Cry stand out from its peers when the series debuted, the open-world sandbox. You play as a Stone Age hunter named Tacker, and your goal is to secure a safe haven for your people, the Wandering Wenja tribe, in the prehistoric realm of Horus. Melee combat and beast companions set Primal apart from past Far Cry games and make exploration feel much more personal and engaging. Primal's story is simpler and more straightforward, so if you were hoping for eccentric villains and outlandish melodrama, you may be left a tad disappointed. Yakuza 6, The Song of Life serves as a delightful, action-packed conclusion to Kazuma Kiryu's gangster-filled story. The beat-em-up game features streamlined controls, fun boss battles, and the oddball happenings you'd expect to find in the ridiculous, fictional Tokyo district of Kamurocho. It's a bit on the easy side, though. The odd thing about aging is just how often it makes you look to the past, perhaps as a way to cope with an ever-shrinking future. The resulting nostalgia can sometimes soften the rough edges on the things we love, making them seem better than they truly were when we first experienced them. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, a bundle that remasters 2 iconic late 1990s and early 2000s skateboarding games, doesn't fall into that trap. In fact, it proves that, yes, those brash and exciting action sports titles are as good as our memories recall, but they now exist with a beautiful visual overhaul and new, bountiful options that makes them even better than what we remember. Battlefield 5 looks gorgeous, plays fast, and encompasses all the hallmarks of a modern first-person shooter. It includes respectable single-player content, war stories, and new takes on multiplayer gameplay, grand operations, but both settle into genre norms. Battlefield V's most apparent drawback, however, is the complexity of its progression systems and somewhat repetitive gameplay. Overall, Battlefield 5 is a solid entry in the long-running Battlefield series, and you should play it if you are a fan of previous titles. Just don't expect anything groundbreaking. Arcane Studios' Dishonored is a fantastic first-person game that puts you in a playground of murder and stealth, while still keeping focused on an interesting story in a rich and enthralling fantasy world that's filled with supernatural happenings. It's not quite as large, as open, or as well-written as Deus Ex, but it stands as a solid spiritual successor to one of the best PC games of all time. With Arise, publisher Bandai Namco clearly set out to raise the Tales series profile. It feels like a big-budget game, one aimed at elevating the series and attracting new fans. Arise makes notable changes to many classic Tales gameplay systems, but its grandiose story is packed with the usual Tales-style anime tropes that the franchise has leaned on for decades. If you can overlook that anime cheese and a few gameplay oddities, you'll find that this PC game is one of the most enjoyable action RPG titles to come along in some time. Much like the Resident Evil 4 remake, Street Fighter VI is built using the versatile RE engine, which balances performance and visual flair. The engine is designed to target a baseline 60 frames per second experience across the board, which is necessary for a competitive title like Street Fighter. Street Fighter SIX's Steam page reveals slightly superior system requirements than that of Resident Evil 4 remake. It lists a 7th generation Core i5 processor, GTX 1060, 6GB VRAM, graphics card, and 8GB of RAM as the minimum specifications required to run the game. While the requirements are not too high for a modern mid-range system, they are still a substantial step up from RE4's requirements. However, the RE engine will provide the game with enough flexibility for players with mid-range PCs to tweak the visuals to get the desired performance. The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt is the final installment in CD Projekt Red's action RPG series. Geralt of Rivia sets out one last time to slay beasts, collect bounties, and protect the Child of Destiny. CD Projekt Red changes the game formula by introducing a massive, open world filled with monsters to hunt and quests to undertake. But it also greatly improves the series' combat by making alchemy more accessible and tightening the action controls. The rich story narrative that drives the game is rife with tragedy, folkloric horror, humor, and intrigue, keeping you on your toes every step of the way. If you liked X, you'll love Y. Might be the cheapest of critical plaudits, but sometimes nothing else will do. So here goes. If you like Batman: Arkham Asylum, you'll love Batman: Arkham City. Developer Rocksteady Studios borrows everything from Asylum that worked: thrilling fighting, excellent voice acting, though it delivers far less innovation. This makes Arkham City derivative, but the game's packed with enough goon-busting fun that it still stands as one of the PC's best action games. For Honor is a medieval-themed combat game has two faces. One is a splendid multiplayer blend of large and small-scale battles. The other is a forgettable single-player campaign that unfortunately requires an online connection. However, For Honor's strategic combat, a resplendent combination of positioning, pacing, awareness, and timely opponent reads, gracefully lifts the entire package from the mediocre AAA bog that might otherwise have slid into. Video games love cyberpunk. The medium excels at exploring the chaos of a society where corporations and technology run rampant. Cyberpunk 2077 and Watch Dogs: Legion delivered cyberpunk with an open-world spin, but if you're looking for something a little leaner and a lot meaner, try the beautiful and brutal Ghost Runner. This first-person action game has a punishing difficulty level that may turn off many people, but hardcore gamers will eat up its fast, ninja-like action. If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, then developer MiHoYo's title is about as flattering as games come. In 2019, Genshin Impact made a splash in the video game world with the unveiling of an expansive open-world action RPG heavily inspired by Nintendo's The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. That is not to say it's a cheap knockoff, however. Genshin Impact features numerous unique gameplay systems and charming story beats to set it apart from Zelda and other open-world RPGs. That said, the free-to-play PC game requires you to do some serious grinding, or shell out some serious dough, to unlock high-powered warriors. Shattered dreams form the foundation of BioShock Infinite, the third installment in Irrational Games' impressive saga exploring the devastating effects of isolation and isolationism on the human psyche. But even if you love the original BioShock, 2007, and its sequel, BioShock 2, 2010, this chapter won't leave you with the impression your dreams have been betrayed. Wedding familiar gameplay elements from the preceding titles with exciting new mechanics, an engrossing story, and stunning visual design, BioShock Infinite is the culmination of the series' aesthetic and its promise to turn a mirror on humanity by probing as deeply into the self as possible. Cyborg law enforcer Adam Jensen returns to stealth-based shooting action in Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, the newest entry in Square Enix's cyberpunk series. Mankind Divided is a dark journey through an oppressive world where the augmented live as second-class citizens. Though Deus Ex's is light on its usual conspiracy-laced story, the game's numerous side quests, fantastic stealth, and gritty futuristic setting will keep you hiding, shooting, and hacking for a long time to come. Wild Hearts is an upcoming monster hunting action role-playing game from KOEI Tecmo Games and EA. It is another great title to look forward to for mid-range PC users. The game is a Monster Hunter-like game with a cool new gameplay twist. Much like traditional hunting titles, it sees players go up against gigantic creatures either solo or in online co-op with up to 2 other gamers. Monster Hunter titles revel in giving players options when it comes to weapons and armor. However, Wild Hearts gives players the ability to use the Karkuri technology alongside their weapons, allowing them to creatively adapt their environment to creative hunting grounds. Although Wild Hearts is a current-generation console exclusive, it does not boast insanely high system requirements. Its minimum system specifications are a Core i5-8400, GTX 1060, 6GB, and 12GB of RAM. The RAM requirement can feel a bit high, given most games on this list state a minimum of 8GB of onboard memory. However, considering 16GB is the norm even for mid-range PCs, it should not be an issue for players with a tight budget. Gearbox Entertainment and 2K Games take you back to the Warzone with Borderlands 2, the sequel to the hit apocalyptic RPG shooter that isn't Fallout. If you played the original Borderlands, you understand this game. You play a vault hunter, a treasure hunter looking for an alien vault on the barely colonized planet of Pandora. While doing so, you cut a swath of death through thousands of Mad Max-style raiders, mutant animals, and robots. Throughout your adventure, you level up your character in an RPG-like fashion and collect hundreds of different guns, each with its own unique stats and attributes. Craving some wuxia? Check out Wulong, Fallen Dynasty, developer Team Ninja's fantasy-fueled take on ancient China. The action RPG contains elements from the studio's Nioh games, but focuses on parries, counters, aggressive play, and a new leaping mechanic. In terms of pure gameplay, Wulong improves on the Nioh formula, but suffers from bland stages and a weak narrative. The Darksiders series, a creative reinterpretation of the Christian end-of-the-world scenario that follows the misadventures of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, returns with a twist. With Darksiders 3, you take control of the irate and unpredictable Fury who's tasked with capturing the 7 deadly sins. Armed with a barbed whip and wicked agility, Fury explores the ruins of the modern world and exterminates menaces in an interconnected, Metroid-esque environment. The combat system has a few annoyances, such as an unreliable camera and frustrating mobs, that hinder the experience. Still, Darksiders 3 is an enjoyable action game that you should play if the theme appeals to you. Character action games, such as Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, aren't often released, so it's nice to see a new genre entry. With Solstice, developer Reply Game Studios delivers addicting gameplay, an edgy early 2000s vibe, and many clever mechanics. The action title has notable shortcomings, such as a clunky targeting system and limited ranged attack options, but the PC game's engrossing combat and delightfully grim atmosphere make it worthwhile. The Guilty Gear series reigns as the king of anime-style fighting games due to its gorgeous art style and a rich, demanding, and lightning-quick combat system. Unfortunately, its oceanic depth and mountainous skill ceiling proved inaccessible to the console player until now. With Strive, developer Arc System Works streamlines the series' unique combat mechanics to make them more newcomer-friendly, while retaining the older game's creative richness. Strive comes with fewer extra modes than its predecessors, but there is a lot to love in this PC game, including astounding visuals, impressive character playstyles, and snappy, lag-free online play courtesy of top-tier, rollback netcode. The Walking Dead is back! After disappearing from digital marketplaces when developer Telltale Games went under, the touching and harrowing The Walking Dead returns to life courtesy of publisher Skybound Games. The choice-based adventure game puts you in the role of Lee, a former professor and convicted criminal who tries to survive a zombie invasion while safeguarding a young girl named Clementine. Keep some tissues close for the ending. Yakuza, Like a Dragon isn't a game anyone expected, but it's exactly the change that the franchise needed. Its turn-based combat system retains the classic Yakuza freneticism that series veterans love, while also serving as a newcomer-friendly jumping-on point that encapsulates everything that makes the series great. Even if you don't fancy yourself a JRPG lover, you may dig this title due to its enthralling world, memorable characters, and fast-paced combat. Back in 2016, IO Interactive established a new era for its cult favorite Hitman franchise with Hitman Season 1. While the episodic release model didn't stick on PC or consoles, that game's grand levels and inventive murder carried over to 2018's Hitman 2. Now, the studio has delivered Hitman 3, the capstone to the World of Assassination trilogy. Featuring expansive levels, new ways to kill, and graphical improvements, this excellent stealth title makes it easy for anyone to become a bald, bar-coded assassin. Death Stranding baffled PlayStation 4 owners who weren't quite prepared for a plot involving extinction, isolation, mortality, and humanity's remnants trying to piece together a broken world. The controversial console game is now a PC game that sports enhanced graphics, platform-specific Half-Life-themed missions, and a photo mode. Taking gameplay cues from the action, stealth, and survival genres, Death Stranding is a more daring affair than the typical mainstream video game title. After all, not many games feature a delivery person who fights flying whales 1 minute and then discusses the afterlife with Guillermo del Toro the next. It's an odd, slow burn. Xbox Game Studios is mostly known for realistic games starring space soldiers and fancy cars, but every so often the company rolls the dice on a family-friendly platformer. 2015's Ori and the Blind Forest was the publisher's most successful attempt in years, and now its sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, is even better. Featuring pinpoint platforming controls, lush visuals, and clever level designs, Ori and the Wills of the Wisps is a magical, instant classic that will be played for years to come. Resident Evil Village is a direct Resident Evil 7 follow-up that continues Ethan Winters' story by dropping him in a new locale, the eponymous village in a fictional Eastern European country. Although Resident Evil 7's first-person camera remains, Capcom mixed older flavors into the pot. Village walks like a remix of Resident Evil 4, with gameplay that hews closer to RE2 or Code Veronica. Village is bigger and weirder than its grounded predecessor, but it doesn't go into full-action hero mode like Resident Evil 5 or 6. Village is an excellent survival horror game that shouldn't be missed. If Alien: Isolation captured the fear at the heart of the original Alien movie, then Aliens: Fireteam Elite taps the trigger-happy joy of that flick's action-packed sequel. In this predictable, yet enjoyable, multiplayer co-op shooter, you and your friends pick different classes to build the most effective team. Use handguns, shotguns, and flamethrowers to put the xenomorphs in their place. So, did you like the games I recommended? So leave your like, subscribe to the channel to follow me and activate the bell because I post a lot of videos on this channel and you can't miss it. I would like to remind you that in the description we have a list of different products that can make your gaming experience much better. If you want to buy, the link will be in the description. Anyway, thank you very much for following me this far and until next time, bye.